Monday. We're going to open up the phone lines for you now because you're coming off the weekend. You're ready to rock and roll and join in the conversation. Maybe you have a pet, maybe you don't. Maybe you have a neighbor that has an annoying pet. Maybe you're thinking of getting an animal. All those types of things. That's the subject matter of today's show as we talk about pets, animal care, and the like with my long-lost friend. Hadn't seen her in a long time. She's been cheating on me with Ben Hall.
Because you have stood me up 3 months in a row.
Well, you know Ben very well, going way back.
I asked where he was today.
And he is sleeping probably right now. But I'm back in the saddle with Allison Fields because I missed seeing her for the last 3 times she'd been on. And she's a veterinarian.
Yes.
And isn't she so nice? We were thinking we've been going back together for 15 years.
Yeah.
You know, and bouncing back between the 2 studios.
Yep.
You've seen it all.
I have.
And so obviously she's someone who's lived in the area, has been a veterinarian, saving thousands of pets' lives over the years.
Hopefully.
Oh, come on. It's good stuff. Listen, the number is 737-7587. If you have a question for Allison or me, if you just want to ask me a question, I'll try to answer it. And I've learned from you over the years.
You have.
I have. But let's talk about what's happening right now. Is there anything that's kind of, you know, you're going on the show today and you're like, well, I'm going on and we do the general pet stuff, which we'll talk about, but is there something that you want to throw out there that maybe is happening that you think people need to know about?
Well, it's time for flea and tick medication. If you haven't already started, you're late.
Okay.
Because it's warming up and
I
mean, ideally in this part of the country, we use it almost year round, if not year round. But if you take a break in the winter, it is time. We have a lot of new products out there that are orals.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
I mean, we've been doing this show for so long that we used to talk about the topicals that were so great, which are still great. But we now have orals, so we don't have to worry about the
it's where you get you squeeze it, you put it in there.
Especially people with small children, they really like the orals so that they don't have to worry about the toddlers.
Is it the same timetable as and it lasts as long with a pill? When you give it to them, how often? Every month?
There's 1 month, but there's also one that lasts for 3 months. 1 pill lasts for 3 months.
Oh, that's awesome. And is that the pills focus on what type of critters?
Fleas and ticks.
Fleas and ticks. Okay, it'll address them both.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
I know.
Do any of the pills also come with, like, you can buy heartworm in there?
There are, but not. So the ultimate goal, I think, and I'm sure that the pharmaceutical companies are working on it, but we cannot currently get heartworm, intestinal parasite, flea, and tick.
Okay.
The tick is the problem. We can do heartworm, intestinal parasite, and fleas in a product called Trifexis, but we cannot get the ticks added in there.
Okay, all right.
I'm sure they're working on it.
I mean, we do a couple with our dogs. We have the topical still, even though I think maybe once we run out of the supply we have of that, we'll try the pill. And then we have the heartworm, which, by the way, we give at the beginning of every month. So we just fed it to them last night, as a matter of fact.
Mine just got hers as well.
So those are the main things, flea and tick season. And you anticipate probably, everyone's saying, and we already see this with the mosquitoes, it's going to be a busy. We didn't have a hard freeze, so you know there's going to be a lot of ticks and fleas out there, right?
Probably.
Does for the dogs that maybe sleep outside and they've got nice comfortable dog houses and things like that, do cedar chips help keep anything off dogs at all, do you think? Does that help? A cedar chip bed or something, you know, scent, does that help?
I know that there's a lot of talk about it.
Okay.
I know that I have seen dogs that are flea infested who have cedar chips. So I think it may help at some level, but I don't think it's the end all be all.
Okay, yeah, it smells good.
Right?
You know? I mean,
they smell great while they're flea infested.
Right, and that doesn't help things there.
No.
And what about rabies? You seen any rabies cases?
I have not seen any rabies cases.
And do you get alerts if others have, maybe in a region? I mean, let's just say, if you found a dog that came in with rabies, would you not only treat that, you alert the health department, do you also, are notices sent out to other veterinarians?
Local vets can't diagnose rabies.
Oh, okay.
Rabies is only a diagnosis after euthanasia and examination of brain tissue.
So you would see an animal that showed the symptoms?
If we saw an animal that was symptomatic for rabies.
Okay, that's right.
And was then euthanized, and then it would go to the lab for testing. Then
the health department would get that, and if they did, I'm sure they'd get the notice out. Because usually, I ask that. Thankfully, it's usually a story for us if someone's pet, as opposed to a rabid raccoon, tests positive, because that's something people need to know about. And I can't remember the last time we've really done one like that, which is great.
I can't either. It is great, and I mean, it is very important to get your animals vaccinated for rabies. I mean, we live in an area where there is a lot of rabies in the wildlife population. Skunks, raccoons, bats, you know, kind of on and on. And so there's a lot of those animals around. And if your animal is not vaccinated and comes into contact with them and has a little bit of a scuffle and gets some saliva, whether they're bitten or whether they just, it's transmitted through saliva.
Right.
So even if they get saliva on an existing cut, they can be infected.
Yeah. So yeah, you just have to go and get the vaccination, which should be standard stuff, and they have the tags, and we do that with our dogs. Listen, before we take our first break, let's take Judy, since she called in early, so she doesn't have to wait through the break. Judy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, Judy. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Well, what's on your mind?
Well, to go along with the chicken fleas, I wanted to ask about the heartworm. I was giving a formula that you can get this particular medicine at the co-op, and you can do a formula depending on so many pounds per weight of your dog. And I wanted to know if that is a feasible option to the HeartGuard, which is so expensive.
Well, a HeartGuard, in the big scheme of things, isn't terribly expensive, but there are some alternatives with the active ingredient of HeartGuard. The trick is that most of your HeartGuards that are sold by your vets also have intestinal parasite control, which the stuff that you can get for large animals does not. It doesn't do anything for intestinal parasites. The other thing you need to know is that that's really concentrated, and I have seen several cases of toxicity of that. And I think that you might want to talk to your veterinarian about that, as opposed to the people at the Tractor Supply or something. If they're not veterinarians, you might want to double check with your vet for the dosage.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for the advice.
Yeah, thank you for the call. And I do know what you're saying. In the scheme of things, it's not. But when you go make the initial purchase, especially if you have 4 dogs, it is a chunk of change. Now, it's, you know, you have your dogs and you have the responsibility for it, and sure as heck better than having fleas and ticks in your house and stuff. But it's not cheap. It's not cheap.
No, but HeartGuard is typically the least expensive of all of them because it doesn't have flea stuff added in.
Right. That's what we get. That's what we get.
But the other thing is that if you're purchasing HeartGuard, and it's from your veterinarian, and you're giving it appropriately, you're purchasing it, you know, every 6 months, there's a guarantee with that product. And you get it. If your dog gets heartworms, the company's going to stand up and back their product. If you're doing an off-label, which is what she's talking about, which realistically, the only people licensed in this country to use medications off-label are veterinarians. But if you're using that off-label, which is what they're doing, there's no guarantee whatsoever about protecting your dogs from heartworms. So if your dog gets heartworms and you're using an off-label drug, nobody can help you, even though we may want to help you.
I know. I do wonder how that would play out if you had the label brand and your dog gets heartworms.
They back their product.
Yeah, but they're going to say, did you follow the rules?
Yeah, they go on your veterinarian's judgment. So they would call us and say, so did Nick Barris purchase these medications, you know, in a timely manner?
If I purchased it, but what if I spaced out and didn't give it to him in a month? They wouldn't know that.
No, they wouldn't. But they're basing this on your relationship with your veterinarian.
Yeah, so hopefully, and you're not unscrupulous, I would be honest. If I missed it and my dog got heartworms, that's on me, not them. But
if you didn't miss it and your vet has proof that you've been purchasing it every 6 months without fail,
then they're not going to call your bluff on that, right?
They're going to be like, all right, we had a failure, which is happening.
Does it happen sometimes what will happen on that? The medication doesn't work for some reason with certain animals? We
are supposing, and we're not quite sure, that there is a population of heartworm that is becoming resistant. And it's mainly in the Mississippi River Delta. So Louisiana, Memphis has some. So along the Mississippi River is where this population is living. There are other heartworm preventions, but the active ingredient in HeartGuard is the one that they are thinking that it's becoming sensitive
Wow, so they're going to have to come up with something new.
Well, there's lots of other things
there are others.
out there.
I see what you're saying.
There's other products, and it's not just HeartGuard. I think there's other products that it may, the active ingredient, but that's the concern, is that, you know, the company wants to know about these things so we can track if this is really happening or if it was a failure of drug. usually what they'll do is if they have a dog who gets heartworms on their product and the vet's like, yep, they get it all the time, they've been giving it, blah, 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 they'll ask for a sample of that dog's blood so they can analyze those heartworms to see if that is a new strain.
Gotcha. All right, listen, let's take a break on that note.
Sure.
When we come back, we can take more calls. Thank you, Judy, for yours. Teresa and others, if you're on hold, the line is 737-7587. If you have a question, and it's good ones, everyone always has questions about tick and flea control along those lines, heartworms, other things maybe that you need to consider as the weather starts getting warmer for your pets. We'll take a break. Be back with more of your calls with Allison Fields, the veterinarian, right after this.